Hello, I'm Tom Wilkinson, and welcome to the Thinking in English podcast, a podcast aimed at intermediate to advanced level English learners. 2020 is almost over. What a strange and unforgettable year it has been. In this episode, we are going to look at New Year's resolutions. And if you listen until the end, I will give you some suggestions for English learning related New Year's resolutions that you can try yourself. But first, why not follow the Thinking in English Instagram page, Thinking in English podcast, or the link is in the description. It's full of great vocabulary content. And you definitely should look at our blog, thinkinginenglish.blog, for all transcripts and bonus content. But first, here is the vocabulary list. As always, the written list is available in the description of the podcast and also on our blog, thinkinginenglish.blog. To alter. To alter. To change something, usually slightly, or to cause the characteristics of something to change. For example, we've had to alter some of our plans. To socialise. To socialise. To spend time when you are not working with friends or with other people in order to enjoy yourself. I tend to not socialise with my colleagues. Resolution. Resolution. A promise to yourself to do or not to do something. For example, I made a resolution to give up chocolate. Trait. Trait. A trait is a particular characteristic that can produce a particular type of behaviour. For example, his sense of humour was one of his better traits. Cliché. Cliché. A cliché is a saying or remark that is very often made and is therefore not original and not interesting. People always use clichés in job interviews. Unachievable. Unachievable. An unachievable task, ambition, etc. is one that is impossible to achieve. For example, it may be an unachievable goal, but you set your targets as high as you possibly can. Spontaneously. Spontaneously. In a way that is natural, often sudden, and not planned or forced. For example, hundreds of people spontaneously appeared at the house for a party. And finally today, satisfied. Satisfied. Pleased because you have got what you wanted, or because something has happened in the way that you wanted. Some people are never satisfied. "2020 has been an unforgettable and unprecedented year. The pandemic has altered the way we live, work, and socialise. And it remains to be seen how permanent these changes will become. Will shaking hands become a thing of the past? Will wearing masks on public transport become the new normal? Will remote work replace the traditional office? I have no answers for these questions, but by the end of next year, maybe we will know better about the impact of COVID-19 in the long term. Hopefully, 2021 will be a year of optimism and positive changes, compared to the distress of 2020. This episode is being released on New Year's Eve for many of my listeners. I want you to reflect on 2020 for a few seconds. As I already mentioned, it has been an unforgettable and unprecedented year. For many people, including myself, so much has happened in both their personal lives and professional lives. In addition, the amount of news in 2020 has been overwhelming. How about you? What happened to you in 2020? How did your professional life change? How did your personal life change? What goals did you hope to achieve in 2020? And were you successful in achieving these goals? If you weren't, why weren't you successful? Is there anything you wished you had done differently? What did you learn in 2020? What did you try for the first time? How was 2020 different to what you expected? I think it's important to reflect on the past year's experiences. So, by thinking about some of these questions, you can evaluate and consider how successful and how influential the previous 12 months have been on your life. After reflecting on the past year, I think it's a good time to consider the future, 2021. Societies around the world celebrate the new year with various unique traditions. What traditions are common in your country, religion, or culture? In Western countries, it is very common for people to set New Year's resolutions. A New Year's resolution is a tradition that involves a person promising to themselves to continue good practices, to change an undesired trait or behavior, to accomplish a personal goal, or otherwise improve their life. New Year, New Me is a frequently used cliche, but sums up the idea behind a New Year's resolution quite simply. January 1st represents a starting point for change or improvement. Essentially, it is an annual opportunity for self-improvement. What are some of the most common New Year's resolutions? Well, according to a YouGov poll conducted in the UK, the top 5 New Year's resolutions included doing more exercise or getting fitter, improving your diet, and losing weight. In fact, it is well known that January is the number 1 month of the year for gym memberships and sign-ups. And this is probably connected to New Year's resolutions and health. Other top New Year's resolutions include saving more money, taking up a new hobby, as well as quitting smoking or drinking alcohol. New Year's resolutions are about improving yourself, continuing good habits, and changing things you want to change. Nevertheless, just because you set a New Year's resolution, it doesn't mean that you will actually complete or achieve your goal. A 2007 study from the University of Bristol involving 3,000 people showed that 88% of those who set New Year resolutions fail. There are quite a few reasons for this. One reason is setting unachievable or unrealistic resolutions. And another reason is setting too vague goals. Let's take the goal of losing weight. You don't really have a defined target. So, do you want to lose 1 kilogram or 50 kilograms? And how fast do you want to lose it? And losing weight is actually a combination of lots of smaller related goals. A more achievable resolution would be recording your eating habits every day or working out twice a week. People often forget about their resolutions and fail to keep track of their progress. So now, I'm going to give you all a few tips on how to keep your resolutions and achieve your goals. Then, I'll suggest a few language learning based resolutions that you can try for 2021. The number 1 tip is to be realistic. Don't set a resolution that is impossible or unlikely, because it is certain to fail. You should also plan your resolutions. Many people spontaneously decide on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day a resolution, but you are more likely to be committed if you carefully consider your options. Plan early and plan well. The next tip is don't keep your resolution secret. Tell people about it. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your co-workers, and this way they can support you, motivate you, and even join in on trying to improve themselves. Another way to keep your motivation high is to reward yourself. Celebrate your successes by treating yourself to something you enjoy. And this can be anything from chocolate to a beer to a trip to the movies, maybe. The bigger the success, the bigger the reward. The next tip was already briefly mentioned earlier in the podcast. Track your progress. It can be difficult to recognize changes in yourself over time, but keeping a record and assessing your performance is essential. So here are 10 possible New Year's resolutions for everyone listening. Choose one or two or however many you'd like, or make your own. But if you do choose one of these resolutions, make sure you follow the tips I just mentioned. Resolution number 1. Start a learning journal. Record your progress, write down your thoughts, and plan out your studying. Resolution number 2. Stop saying that I don't speak English or my English isn't good. I really dislike when my students say things like this. Your English is great and you can speak. The more you believe in yourself and your ability, the more progress you will make. So stop saying you don't speak English and stop saying your English is bad. Resolution number 3. Remember that there isn't just one correct accent in English. I often get asked about correct pronunciation, but often it's not that simple. There are so many different accents, ways of speaking, and dialects related to the English language. So make sure you listen to a variety of different English accents. Listen to my podcast for a basic British English, accent. Watch some American TV shows. Listen to some Australian radio shows. There's lots of material out there with lots of different accents. Resolution number 4. Practice doing something in English for 10 minutes every day. Whether it's speaking, listening, reading, or writing, just do something in English for 10 minutes every day. Resolution number 5. Make a list of your common grammar errors and keep updating and reviewing the items over the year, and then cross them off as you master them. This way, you can work out which grammar you need to practice the most and evaluate how you are performing from the beginning of the year to the end. Resolution number 6. Find time to read English for pleasure. English shouldn't just be a subject to you, but also something you enjoy. So pick up a good book and just read it. Don't worry about studying it. Don't worry about understanding every specific vocabulary or piece of grammar. Just find something you enjoy and read it. Number 7. Try using at least 5 new items of vocabulary every week. There are plenty of websites out there and applications on your smartphones that give you a word a day, a new English word a day. In fact, there are Instagram accounts and Twitter pages that do the same. I follow one for learning Japanese. Resolution number 8. Take an online English class. There are lots of online English teaching platforms. I work for one myself. So if you're interested in studying English with a teacher or with a tutor, why not have a look and see if any of the platforms appeal to you? If you're interested or want some advice, feel free to send me a message on Instagram. Resolution number 9. Enjoy learning some slang and idiomatic expressions. If you want to use English in your personal life, maybe when you're making friends with people from English-speaking countries, speaking to people online, traveling, you need to know some slang and some idioms. Because without slang and idioms, it gets quite difficult to have normal conversations. But the best thing about slang and idioms is they're quite enjoyable to learn. They're interesting. Resolution number 10. Create an English language social media account. And then follow English teachers and learning organizations, podcasts and pages like mine, Thinking in English, and fellow students. And this way you can post in English. You can, every time you look at your feed, there will be useful vocabulary tips or pronunciation tips. So make an English language social media account. Final thought. As I have been planning this episode, I have also taken the opportunity to reflect on my past year and make some resolutions for 2021. This year has certainly been a year of ups and downs. I began the year incredibly satisfied and enjoying my life in Taiwan, until COVID forced me to return to the UK and postponed everything else I had planned. After making this podcast, however, the last few months have been much more encouraging. So, what are my resolutions? Let's start with language learning. I was recently given a nice notebook and some very good pens for Christmas. So I decided that I will write something in Japanese every day. I will also use a language learning app on my phone every day as well. And hopefully I will start studying Chinese again in the not too distant future. For this podcast, I want to keep improving the content I'm producing for you. My resolution is to continue with my regular schedule. Probably I'm going to continue with 2 episodes a week for now. I also have plans to start bringing on guests in the future, and maybe even getting some of you listeners involved in question and answer sessions, or really anything. What are your New Year's resolutions? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Thinking in English. Please share with your friends, check out our social media links in the description, and send us a message. We really appreciate all of your feedback. And if you have any ideas for topics, future podcast guests, or other learning formats, please let us know. And please leave us a rating. We're now on Instagram. I'm producing daily content focusing on improving your vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar. So make sure you check out the Thinking in English page, Thinking in English podcast on Instagram, or the link is in the description. Instagram is also probably the best way to contact me, and many of you already have. All transcripts of the podcast are also available on the Thinking in English blog. Vocabulary lists, comprehension questions, and articles are all there for you to read. The link is in the description, so please check it out. Thank you, and see you next time.